Justin Bieber's past struggles with drug use. From his rise to fame as a teen sensation to the wild headlines that followed, Justin's journey hasn't always been smooth. There were times when it looked like he was spiraling out of control. But what happened behind the scenes? How did he go from being the most famous pop star on the planet to dealing with some very real personal battles? Stick around because we're going to break it all down and explore how he turned things around. Let's get into it. Justin Bieber was only 13 when he blew up the music scene. He wasn't just a pop star, he was a global phenomenon. Teens everywhere were obsessed with him, and he was on top of the world. Imagine being that young and already living a life most people only dream of. Crazy, right? But with all that fame came a level of pressure that most of us could never really understand. When you're a teenager and suddenly the world's eyes are on you, 24/7, things can get a little messy. For Justin, fame hit hard and fast. His music was everywhere, girls were screaming his name, and every move he made was under the microscope. As he grew older, things started to get more complicated. With all that attention came a lifestyle full of temptations. Parties, flashy cars, and the kind of freedom a 16-year-old shouldn't really have. But he was surrounded by people who encouraged it. Yes, men. The kind of people who tell you whatever you want to hear, not what you need to hear. In the blink of an eye, Justin's childhood was over and he was thrown into the adult world. Around 2013, we started to see the cracks. Justin wasn't acting like the sweet, innocent teen we once knew. Instead, he was being caught up in situations that made headlines for all the wrong reasons. The media was all over it. They weren't interested in his new music or the next big thing he was doing. They were focused on his late-night parties, run-ins with the law, and, well, let's just say his lifestyle wasn't exactly healthy. The first major signs came when he was linked to marijuana use. It wasn't just a rumor either. There were photos of Justin with a joint in his hand, and then the whole story about him smoking at a party started making the rounds. Now, marijuana alone might not sound like the end of the world for some, but for a kid under intense scrutiny, it was a signal of something bigger. But that wasn't the only thing making people worry. Justin was often spotted with people who had a reputation for living fast and hard. There were stories of all-night parties, and there were even whispers that he was dabbling in more than just weed. Those whispers soon turned into bigger questions. What was going on behind the scenes? Was he in over his head? For a while, it seemed like Justin was spiraling. The headlines didn't help. In fact, they probably made things worse, but here's the thing. No one really knew what was happening with Justin. We only saw what was being reported, the messy stuff, the moments that felt like a teenager trying to cope with something much bigger than himself. But was he really in control of his choices? Or was his fame and the pressure of being Justin Bieber pushing him into dangerous territory? The reality is, Justin was struggling. He may have had it all, but he was also battling some deep personal issues. And this was just the beginning. His story would take unexpected turns, and the world would be watching every step of the way. But before it all got worse, Justin had a choice to make. Would he be able to get a grip on his life before things completely unraveled? As the years passed, Justin's personal life became more chaotic, and it was clear that something wasn't right. The cute, squeaky clean boy who sang Baby had almost disappeared. By 2014, the headlines had shifted from music success to his increasingly erratic behavior. Parties, arrests, and run-ins with the law were starting to overshadow his career. This wasn't just growing pains. This was a full-blown crisis. It all came to a head in January 2014, when Justin was arrested in Miami. He was charged with driving under the influence, resisting arrest, and having an expired driver's license. The mugshot went viral, and suddenly people saw him in a completely new light. The cute teen pop star was now a troubled figure, out of control. But here's where it gets really serious. The toxicology report revealed that Justin was under the influence of both alcohol and drugs when he was arrested. Not just alcohol, but also marijuana and Xanax. He was barely out of his teens, yet already tangled up in a dangerous mix of substances. This arrest wasn't just a one-off incident either. In the months leading up to it, Justin's life had become a blur of late-night parties, reckless driving, and even more concerning behaviors. His reputation had shifted. People weren't just worried about his health anymore. They were wondering if Justin had completely lost his way. Was he making these choices on his own? Or was he surrounded by people who were encouraging his worst habits? There were rumors swirling about harder drugs too. Lean, which is a dangerous cocktail of prescription-strength cough syrup, with codeine, mixed with soda, was mentioned in connection with Justin during this time. Lean had a reputation for being a favorite of many celebrities, but it's also one of the most dangerous substances out there. It can cause brain damage, respiratory issues, and even death if abused. Yet, reports indicated that Justin had developed a reliance on it. And this only added to the concerns his fans and family were feeling. But did anyone step in? Well, sort of. Justin's team and his family weren't blind to what was going on, but the problem with fame, especially when you're a young superstar, is that you're often surrounded by people who don't want to upset the apple cart. There's money to be made, and keeping a famous person happy is usually the priority. Even though those closest to Justin likely saw the signs of addiction, it's easy to ignore the problems when you're in the middle of a whirlwind. The people in his life were likely just as caught up in his fame and wealth as he was, and it became hard to see the person underneath all the success. But Justin wasn't invincible. The damage was being done, and his actions began to hurt more than just his reputation. They were affecting his health, his relationships, and ultimately his future. Fans and the media speculated about what was really going on, but Justin wasn't opening up about it. He was still keeping up appearances, attending events, releasing music, and trying to look like the Justin everyone once knew. That was the thing with Justin at this point. He was caught between two worlds. On one side, he had a career and a public image to maintain. On the other, he was fighting a personal battle that no one could see. His past was catching up with him, and it was becoming harder to hide the cracks. Was Justin really in control, or was he slipping further into the abyss? In the next few months, his behavior would only continue to make headlines for the wrong reasons. But things couldn't stay this way forever. The tipping point was coming. Justin couldn't keep living this double life forever, and the road ahead was going to force him to make a decision. Would he face the consequences of his actions, or would he fall even deeper into the chaos? By 2015, things had reached a breaking point. Justin was becoming a shell of the person he used to be. The wild parties, the out-of-control behavior, the constant media scrutiny, it all started to take a serious toll on him. Fans, friends, and even his family were beginning to worry that Justin might not make it out of this dark place. In his 2020 YouTube docuseries Seasons, Justin opened up in a way he never had before. He admitted that he had hit rock bottom. His drug use had spiraled out of control, and he was no longer able to keep up the facade of having everything together. The smile he flashed for the cameras was just that, a smile. Inside, he was struggling with some deep emotional pain. And as it turns out, the drugs were his way of coping with the overwhelming pressure that had built up over the years. Justin revealed that his substance use wasn't just about the partying and the thrill anymore. It had become a way to numb himself from the anxiety, depression, and loneliness he was dealing with. It wasn't just about the physical effects. It was a way to escape from the emotional weight of his fame. The bright lights and screaming fans couldn't fill the emptiness he felt inside. He didn't know who he was anymore or what his purpose was beyond being the Justin Bieber the world adored. In the same docuseries, he explained how everything started to catch up with him. By the time he was in his early 20s, he was struggling with serious addictions. This wasn't just the occasional slip-up. His reliance on drugs and alcohol was becoming life-threatening. Justin admitted that he had been using drugs like MDMA, lean, and Xanax, substances that can seriously mess with your mind and body. It was clear that he wasn't just partying anymore. He was self-medicating, and it had gone way too far. But there was a silver lining. The turning point came when Justin realized that he needed to make a change. He had to face the truth about what was going on in his life. He was at a crossroads. Either he could keep spiraling, or he could take control and start working on himself. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the only way forward. One of the most pivotal moments in his journey was his relationship with his now wife, Hailey Baldwin, now Hailey Bieber. She came into his life during one of his darkest periods, and she was one of the few people who could see beyond his fame and fame-induced behavior. Hailey didn't just see Justin as the pop star, she saw him as a person, struggling to find peace. With her support, Justin started taking steps towards recovery. It wasn't an overnight fix, and there were still moments of doubt and relapse. But with Hailey by his side, he had someone to keep him grounded. For the first time, Justin was starting to face the reality of his past choices. He wasn't just dealing with addiction. He was dealing with the trauma and pain that had built up over years of being thrust into the spotlight at such a young age. And while drugs had been his escape, they were only masking the deeper issues that needed to be addressed. Justin's journey of self-discovery and healing didn't happen quickly. In fact, it was a slow process that took years of therapy, self-reflection, and facing his inner demons. But as he's shared with his fans, it was all worth it. He realized that the only way to heal was to confront his problems head-on. And that's exactly what he started doing. Slowly but surely, Justin began to rebuild his life piece by piece. The turning point wasn't just about kicking the drugs, it was about finding a deeper sense of meaning in his life. And while the road to recovery was long, he was on the path to a better, healthier version of himself. But that didn't mean everything was perfect. He was still faced with the pressures of fame, the expectations of others, and his own mental health struggles. It was only the beginning of his journey towards truly overcoming his past. After years of struggle, recovery, and self-reflection, Justin Bieber emerged stronger, healthier, and more grounded. But let's be real, it hasn't been an easy ride. No one bounces back from a journey like his without some bumps along the way. But the fact that he was even able to come out the other side is a testament to his determination and the support he had around him. By 2020, with the release of Changes, Justin was showing fans a completely different side of himself. The album reflected not just his musical evolution, but his personal growth as well. He was no longer the troubled teen who acted out for attention. He was a man who had learned from his mistakes, and he wasn't afraid to admit it. His music now had a deeper, more introspective tone, and he was open about the struggles he faced along the way. But it wasn't just the music that showed his growth. It was his attitude, his outlook on life, and his relationship with his fans. But here's the big thing. Justin didn't just fix his relationship with drugs, he fixed his relationship with himself. He finally started to understand the importance of self-love and self-care. That's not something that comes overnight, especially when you've been under the public's eye for so long. His story wasn't just about kicking a habit, it was about rediscovering who he was, free from the pressures of fame, expectations, and the need to please others. The transformation wasn't just for him, it was for his fans too. Justin became open about his struggles, and his fans admired him for it. Instead of trying to hide behind a perfect image, he embraced his flaws, his mistakes, and his journey. It wasn't just about being a pop star anymore, it was about being human. His marriage to Hailey Bieber played a huge role in his healing too. Hailey was there for him when the world seemed to be falling apart, and together they built a stronger foundation. Their relationship showed that love, trust, and honesty could overcome even the toughest battles. Hailey wasn't just his wife, she was his partner in healing, someone who understood him and supported him no matter what. Now, Justin's a new man. He's healthier, happier, and more in control of his life. Sure, he still faces challenges. No one's life is ever perfect, but Justin has learned that you don't have to be perfect to be happy. It's about learning from your mistakes, growing from them, and taking things one day at a time. His journey is far from over, but he's in a much better place than where he started. Looking back on everything, it's clear that Justin's story is one of redemption. From a teen pop sensation to a troubled young adult, to finding his way back to happiness, his life is proof that change is possible. You can go through some really dark times and still come out on top. Justin Bieber's story shows us that no matter how far down you fall, you can always rise up and rebuild. And while we'll never forget the roller coaster ride he's been on, one thing's for sure, Justin Bieber has turned a new page. He's no longer the troubled teen we saw in the headlines. He's a man who's learned from his past, made amends, and is now focused on living his best, healthiest life. The future's looking brighter for him, and it's safe to say that the best is yet to come.